The 911 call, when she called and said that she was having mental health challenges.
Oh, okay.
The mother,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Oh, the mother,
so
the day before.
the day before, and then so those officers, so I won't speculate that they knew, but just them prompting to ask, how are you doing mentally, in my mind it's
That
just,
indicates some sort of knowledge or
yeah.
at
In
least
the
some.
police department, if I'm not mistaken, I know she has had, I wouldn't say run-ins, but she's had calls on multiple police departments in her community for her mental health. So I don't know if police departments talk to each other and things like that. And that's something, when you say like, what should we do? That is something that, if you're in the same community and there's maybe two police departments 3 miles away from each other, and someone that's dealing with mental health issues that may call persistently and things like that, there should be some type of liaison or some type of communication between these departments in maybe their mental health department, if they have.
Especially since it's so prevalent. So that's my
Absolutely.
inquiry, because I don't know that it necessarily means. I am very skeptical of people doing their jobs across the board. I am. And so I don't know that the message was relayed, and they could have just been inquiring because she was acting differently. And so that's what my bigger question is there a mechanism so they can know? So when they are dispatched out, they
Mhm.
are told.
And that's
Right.
what the mother said too. She said she was hesitant, but she wanted to make sure. She said, "Please write it down. Please send someone who understands."
And this is where the CIT training is very important. And so,
Right.
for you all listening, if you are faced with a situation like this, you call and you ask specifically for a CI trained officer.
So
And
that's
so,
crisis in
crisis intervention training. And so they offer this 40 hours program for officers. And again, it's mandatory. I don't know why. I mean, it's not mandatory, it's volunteer based, but it's so important. It's so important.
it's vital,
Yeah.
obviously. I mean, and had they had something like that, you would hope that a life would have been saved as a result of this.
Hmm.
It's not like the no knock warrants that happened with in Kentucky. It's not like some of the other things where a policewoman walked into the wrong apartment and did that. But this is something that God could have, God hoping that something could have been prevented.
Yeah.
And this is
Has
the day.
he said anything? Because he couldn't. Did he try to say he felt threatened? I mean, what did he say?
I haven't
I
seen any reports like
Oh,
that,
okay.
and
either.
maybe Attorney Jackson will have some information
Okay.
like that, Yolanda. Um, so don't leave us. We want you to stay with us as we talk about not only this newsletter, and good job, April Ed. I know that topics like this are difficult sometimes, and I trust and believe.
Yeah.
There are days in the news business is just so heavy on me
Yeah.
that I just, I have to go watch a marathon of Hallmark movies for the next 36 to 48 hours. But I do appreciate your delving into this and with the sensitivity that is required of this subject. So thank you very much. This is what we do in the What You Need to Know newsletter. We seek to inform and empower our leaders, and especially those in the African American community, stories that are about us and by us. And Aprilette is our mental health and wellness contributor. Coy Malone, who's going to join us, is our social justice contributor. She's been on this story since the beginning, which is now just shy of a month old. The story of Sonia Massey's murder by a Sangamon County Sheriff's deputy, and other stories in there too. This is coming, we're now at the end of Black Nurses Week. And take a look at that. I've had an enjoyable time reading the stories that salute our Black nurses. And these today, it talks about the nurses who served alongside the Tuskegee Airmen. And
Oh,
this is why we should talk to our family members about it, because this woman found out only after going through her mother's things. Not only was she not a nurse in World War II, she was a Black nurse who served alongside the Black Airmen, the Tuskegee Airmen. And what a great
Mm.
story this turns out to be. She said she graduated from nursing school, a segregated nursing school in Richmond, Virginia in 1942. And looking through this, and she found all of these things that had to do with her mom and the nurses in the military with the Tuskegee Airmen. And she knew she had to tell anyone who would listen. And so she told her mom's story.
Yeah.
And that's just it's just so dear. Her mother was Louise Virginia Lomax, and read more about Miss Lomax's story and her daughter's finding out her story. Sometimes we find out things about our parents and going through their things we don't necessarily want to know. But this is a story. This is a really great story, and one that you do want to share with as many people as you can. So she said she knew she had to tell anyone who would listen, and we appreciate her telling her story. Also, as I mentioned, Coy Malone is our social justice contributor, and she writes about the fact that gasoline prices could have a real effect on the upcoming presidential election. The average price of gas in Michigan, especially, and it could be a key factor in who wins this year's presidential election. A lot of talk about inflation and how we are having to pay the price for this. And so it is incumbent upon us to get to the stories and let people know. I am if I'm looking down a lot, I'm sorry. I'm trying to send the link to Coy, and here we go.
I'm here.
I know.
could have
I
done
know.
it.
Okay.
She said,
You're right. You're right. You're right. Done. So Coy writes about this, and this is in connection with our partnership with Black Voters Matter. So please take a look at this as well. And there are other things that we talk about in terms of Black history, little known Black history fact. We also have an HBCU corner and other things like that. So let us now, without further ado, let's move to our guest.
So, Sybil, I would just like to share with you. I'm going to stay on, but when Coy comes on, I'm going to switch us out because
Okay.
I'm excited to hear what Miss Jackson has to say.
Okay.
Okay.
Natalie Jackson, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Thank you, Sybil. Thank you, Yolanda, and thank you, April. I really, really appreciate being invited on.
Well, I was so excited. I reached out to Attorney Crump, and I was like, "Look, we talk about you guys all the time, and what you do." And he was kind enough to connect us, and so and we are also hoping to get your investigator on. He had was a mishap with scheduling because of his airline travel yesterday, but he promises to take a look at his schedule and bring and come back and bring us some information on that. But let me tell folks about this young woman who is with us. Very, very impressive credentials there, Attorney Jackson, the senior attorney for Ben Crump Law. And she has been at the forefront of numerous landmark cases that we have touched upon here and that you no doubt have heard about, including the Trayvon Martin case, the Breonna Taylor case, and the George Floyd case, and now the murder of Sonia Massey, the young Black woman killed by the Sangamon County Sheriff's deputy. And so we welcome you, Attorney Jackson. And Coy is going to join us when she can. But I just wanted to say that starting out here, although the deputy pleaded not guilty, there is video of the shooting. So it would seem to be an open and shut case. Is that true?
It should be true. But in the state of America, when it comes to law enforcement and Black people, that doesn't necessarily mean it's true. So we've had many cases where a sheriff was arrested, there was a trial, and the jury came back not guilty. And there was video. I could point to Botham. Well, there was no video in Botham James' case, but Terrence Crutcher's case in Oklahoma.
Yes. Yeah.
I can point to, and if your audience doesn't know who he is, he was the young man that was shot by the police officer. Initially, they said she thought she was using a taser, and it was a gun. It came out later that she knew it was a gun, but she was still acquitted. So just because we get an arrest, the work is not done.
What has he said?
So he has not said anything. The only thing that and rightfully so, he has an attorney right now who's probably advising him not to say anything. What we do know is that what his possible defenses will be is that he was threatened by the pot of water. and that
he was a long ways away from, wasn't he? Or
yeah, and so here's the thing. To use deadly force, he had to have been threatened with serious bodily harm or death. That's the law, right? So they're going to say that the pot of water could have caused serious bodily harm or death. That will be his defense. We saw a similar defense in the Trayvon Martin criminal case, where Mark O'Mara said the sidewalk was the thing that could cause serious injury or deadly or death. And so, it gets more and more ridiculous, these defenses.
Yeah.
But as long as they can make them and convince one juror, in a criminal case, that they can win. And so this is something that we have to be very, very vigilant about. I want to tell your viewers that, I think some people know, but some people don't, that the criminal justice system and the civil justice system is different. So the criminal justice system, the prosecutor is representing the state. So in Sonia Massey's case, the prosecutor, the person who can bring the case and fight for the victim, is the state of Illinois. And that would be a government prosecutor who's usually a government worker. The defendant can get a private lawyer. So that's one of the things. So when you see Attorney Crump on these cases, and we can try to give advice in the criminal case, we can provide evidence in the criminal case, but that's not our case.
Right.
Not your case.
That's not our case. Our case is the civil case. Gotcha. So in the civil case, which is what we do, we represent the victim's family. In a civil case, the only thing that you can get is money. So you can't put anybody in jail. You can't, get any other type of retribution unless you can have a settlement or something. But if it goes to trial, the only thing a jury can do is award monetary damages. So,
and collecting that is a whole nother matter.
Yes, but against a municipality or a police department, it is, you will collect it. But I say that to say, with that is still an important part of justice.
Sure.
Right.
So to get complete justice, we need criminal convictions, and we need civil reimbursement to this family for the harms. You have two children. In the Sonia Massey case, she had two children. I'm sorry?
Teenagers, correct?
Yes, she had two teenagers. She had Malachi, who was 17, and Summer, who's 15. They were financially dependent on their mother.
Yeah.
And so you took away not only their emotional person that they depended on, but the person they depended on financially.
That's right.
So I want us as Black people, and I hear this a lot and I read this a lot, I want us as Black people to stop saying money can't bring them back. I think we all know that. But let me tell you what money can do.
Okay.
When you're talking about a police department, when you're talking about a sheriff's department, this is taxpayers' dollars. At some point, taxpayers are going to get tired of paying this. And this is how we affect politics when you talk about dollars. So our job at Ben Crump Law, and you will see this in every one of our cases, is to have the highest verdict and settlement in that state. And we have done it.
Okay.
We to do it. And we do it. Yes, we do it to make sure that these children are taken care of and this family is taken care of. But we also do it because at some point it's going to be too expensive to kill us.
Hello.
Talk about
if you hit them where it hurts. And
And that is the goal. So I would like everybody, if you know somebody that say money ain't gonna bring them back, why they talking about money? It has multiple purposes, and we must talk about money because that's the only thing that talks in this country. When you're talking about taxpayers and politicians, that's what they care about.
Let me ask you this, because and we're going to bring Aprylete in, Yolanda. I'm sorry, let Coy in.
Okay, I'm going to leave, Sybil. Thank you. Nice to meet you, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you, Yolanda.
So one of the things that Aprylete mentioned was the need for the CIT training. can that be a part of the agreement in the case, that you not only will you get a civil damages, you will file for civil damages, but also require that, or is that something for the politicians and the state much to determine?
It is definitely something for the politicians. So it's something that the people in that county and in that state can push for. Sometimes we can get it if there's a settlement. In litigation, though, a jury can only award money.
Okay.
So a jury can't say, and you have to do this.
Right. So like with Breonna Taylor, they immediately went for the no-knock law because that is what happened. And so in this case, perhaps a politician, a state.
We have already talked about the Sonia Massey law. So that's one of the things that I think is different about the firm that I work for. And that's one of the things I'm so proud about working for Ben Crump Law, is that not only are we just suing and doing these cases, we're also pushing policy.
Yeah.
So we help write policy. We have had cases where we've had writers write bills. We push policies. We've had the Breonna Taylor law passed. And I will say, this is not stuff that we do alone. Many times we are coming into a state or a city where there are activists and organizers that have been working on this stuff for years.
Sure.
So our job, and Attorney Crump is very clear about his job, is to amplify their voices, those community voices. So when we come in, we always call the local organizers, the local activists, and we're like, how can we help you get whatever you need done in your city to protect our black citizens?
And that's why Reverend Al Sharpton calls Ben Crump Attorney General.
A lot of people don't know the work that he does. I will tell you, Ben is working. He's on the phone to politicians. So it's not just like any law firm where we're just litigating cases. Ben is actually on the phone talking to politicians, helping them, develop policies. He has people in our office working on different solutions and strategies for alternatives, and we're litigating cases.
Right.
So I will be the first, and I think everybody who works for Ben, we are very honored to work for him because we know that what we're doing is making a difference. So it kind of burns us to read some people who don't understand. We understand they don't understand. Like I've heard someone say we lost Trayvon Martin. I'm like, no, they lost the criminal. The prosecutor lost the criminal part of Trayvon Martin. There was a civil component, and I assure you we won.
Okay. Yeah. Set them straight, Attorney Jackson. Let me introduce you to Coy Malone. Coy is our social justice contributor, and Coy has been following this case since the early part of July when the unfortunate event happened. Coy, you can probably give a little bit of background from what you've learned, or if you have any questions for Attorney Jackson as well.
Yeah, so as everybody remembers, that Sonia Massey was unfortunately fatally shot on July 6th by an officer who was a part of the group of officers that responded to a call to a possible intruder. She was instructed to move a pot of water, and while she moved the pot of water, the officer began to threaten to shoot her in the face, which he did subsequently. And unfortunately, Miss Massey passed away due to her injuries. And it's just a very, very tragic incident that we're seeing that seems to be repeating itself a lot amongst Black people and the police. And it's perpetuating the growing fear of us not being able to trust the police. Absolutely. But also a lot of questions and concerns about what can be done to further stop this. So one of the questions that I have is, how difficult is it to get a policy put in place that holds police more accountable for their actions?
So it's very difficult. You can see right now, Trump is running on the platform of giving immunity to police officers. Right. This is such a political minefield. And so politicians, they all want to be hard on crime. They all want the police union's endorsement. So it becomes very hard to put policies into place and give them teeth. Now there are policies. Trust me, these departments have policies. They have the written policies. Do they have the culture that follow the policies?
There you go.
That's the question. And is there some way to enforce the policies? That's the question. Officer Sean Grayson in the Sonia Massey case, he had his body camera off. There's a policy, there is a state law about body cameras being on when you interact with citizens. He did not have it on, you know. So that the question is, how do we get law enforcement to enforce these policies, the higher up to enforce these policies and procedures? And the way you do that is to threaten their jobs. So no, everybody, they want their jobs, trust me. And so citizens have a lot of power in that, in organizing in that, because once you start threatening jobs, trust me, things change.
Start to get money, that money.
Yes. Right. It all goes back to money. And that's really it. So I want to tell you, just kind of give you like kind of a brief overview. I know people have heard about qualified immunity and Monell and those type of things. So when we talked about the civil and the criminal aspect of a lawsuit, we do the civil aspect. That is where you're suing the sheriff or the police department and the deputy who committed the action. So the deputy usually is afforded the opportunity to get qualified immunity.
And explain to people what that is.
So qualified immunity says that if a deputy operated in his legal capacity under his discretion and he did something, even if it was a violation of the law, if there is no law, and I'm doing this layman's terms so you understand, if there is no law on the books that would have warned him that what he did was illegal, then he gets qualified immunity, even if he did something illegal and used excessive force. So, and in this case, it would have been where, and I will say we don't have to worry about Deputy Grayson. He's not getting qualified immunity. Everybody's throwing him under the bus. And everybody's disassociated themselves from him.
Even the police union.
Even the police union. However, that does not solve the problem, right? Because he was hired after being at 6 different police departments.
Come on.
After being discharged with a misconduct from the military, after having 2 DUIs, he was hired to be a police officer and take a gun into our communities and given that authority and that power. That is the problem. So that you'll see when there's something very egregious, they are quick to throw the police officer under the bus because that's one person. We're talking about a system.
Right.
And so now how do we prevent that? You have to go after the head, right?
Because that's where the fish starts to rot.
Yeah, the head, and in the sheriff's department, sheriffs are elected officials. So they don't report to anyone else. The only person that can get rid of them is the governor. So you have to go after that sheriff. In a police department, it's usually the city. So it would be the mayor and the city council. So you have to go after them. That is what you have to start at the top to put pressure, because change starts from the top. Culture starts from the top. We can't just blame a deputy because he got there somehow and he was allowed to operate in that system somehow. And he felt comfortable enough to shoot someone in the face and for a pot of water and turn off his camera and leave and come back and say, he ain't even gonna help her as she's sitting on the floor dying. Because that's the part, Ms. Coy, that you missed on the story, was when he said, she's done, don't help her.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's called deliberate indifference. There's laws about that where police officers have to render aid. He did not. He broke that law too. And so when we ask the question, it really is, and I know people get tired of hearing this because they're like, okay, you know, we keep hearing vote, vote, vote. But this is something where your vote does matter. I will give you, if you will allow me, I'll talk about the Roger Fulton case in North Florida.
Yes.
So Roger Fulton was the airman. He was an active duty military who was shot and killed in his home by a police officer who went to the wrong house. Well, in this case, they still have not arrested the police officers or pressed charges. They've actually said, I got a call this morning from the state attorney's office. So this happened May 3rd. We are now coming up on, we're in August now.
Right, so we're 3 months in.
We're 3 months in. I got a call this morning because The Florida Department of Law Enforcement completed their investigation. We don't know when. We believe about a month ago. They won't tell me when.
Wow.
They gave it to the state attorney's office. The state attorney called me this morning and said, well, we should have a charging decision by August 23rd.
Wow.
Now, did he say that? You want me to tell you, Miss Sybil?
Yes, please.
The sheriff's election is August 20th.
Get out of town.
Wow.
So that leads me to believe they are not going to charge this officer.
Right. Right.
So we will be rallying there, and we will let the citizens there know.
Absolutely.
Because they want us to, they said, could we meet with you guys on August 23rd to discuss this charging decision? Like we dumb.
Right. like
So we will be there next week.
Okay.
Because the citizens have a choice, and they have a choice to keep this sheriff who is going to keep this officer and this department, or they can vote him out. And so this is the type of stuff that we have to like really be vigilant about, and the pressures that we have to put on people, because they haven't made a decision. Hopefully we can help them make that decision.
And the games that people play, the games that they play to try to get over on the system, and thinking that you were born, last night.
Yeah.
We have a couple of comments. I do want to get those in before we lose you, Attorney Jackson. Manuel Murphy says body cams should be regulated by dispatch. A signal is sent to the dispatcher minutes it's turned off. Dispatcher asks, why is your body cam off? Do you know if that was the case there in Sangamon County?
No, that was not the case there. I am not sure. I'm not aware of any dispatch. I don't know if he's suggesting that should be a policy.
Sounds like a suggestion.
Yes, and I agree. And this is where activists and organizers come into play. There are a lot of organizations in different cities that work on that right now. And I will say, Kamala Harris was the co-sponsor of the George Floyd Policing Act, where we had things like body cam in that act. We had things like making sure that officers could not go from department to police department. There was a national registry, but that didn't pass. That's another reason politics are so important in these cases, because it didn't pass because you did not have the support in Congress. And so if we want to protect, we have to have protection from the top down. It starts from the top down, and the citizens really do have a lot of power.
Janet Ferguson, this is something we discussed yesterday. Why is the police union pushing for him to get his pension if they don't want anything to do with him? They've changed that, haven't they?
Yes. So they withdrew their petition for him to get his, they withdrew their grievance. So they initially said that they were going to file a grievance on his behalf so that he gets his pension, so that he gets reinstated in the police force, and he does all this. Well, after the rally, on Wednesday in Chicago, that was withdrawn. And that is the power of the people.
Yep.
And that's a pretty powerful, and I'm from Chicago. I know the unions there. That's a pretty powerful move on the part of the people to make that happen in such quick order, because everybody was really, really upset about that. Are the vigils still going on around the country?
Yes, they are. There are rallies, there are protests. And I want to say, there are usually vigils and protests going on whenever there's an injustice. We just don't hear about it.
Right.
So, when you talk about, they're just local. And that's why it's so important to have Attorney Crump, because he's an amplifier of these voices.
That's
because many people are like, well, why we don't want to be on television? Why aren't we on television? They're taking advantage of the pain or whatever. You have to put this pain out there, because if no one is talking about it, nobody cares. And that is what only the people who it affected cares. And if only the people who affected cares, there is no pressure on the political body. So we do need someone out there. We try to have a news story every day. We sit around and try to figure out what would the news be interested in today. Because, and it's not because we like being on television, because trust me, Attorney Crump is tired.
Right.
But we must keep this on the forefront, especially in a season like this where there are elections going on, because people get to make a choice. And as we say, pressure bust pipes, right?
That's right.
So And that's what we try to do, is put this pressure. So that's why he's on television. It's not because he wants to be on television every day and he likes to hear himself talk. It is because people only talk about an issue once it is amplified.
That's right. Well, you always have an outlet here. If you want to pass the news along, we will gladly bring you guys on and talk about it in our newsletter as well as here on our evening show. Coy or Aprylete, before we let Attorney Jackson, because these are billable hours. I'm kidding. Before we let her go,
now we do this with our community for free because we want our community to know. Okay,
that's
and
right.
We feel we are the ones that are most affected, and we are here.
And we appreciate what you're doing for us. We really do.
Well, I appreciate you all having an outlet like this for us to give the community information. And I heard you all. I was talking as I was waiting to come in, and this is very powerful to be able to give the community that type of information and accurate information.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Very powerful. So thank you, ladies. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Please give my best to Ben.
I will.
We go back a long way with Trayvon Martin and Miss Sabrina Fulton and all the family. So and it's a great pleasure to meet you and to have you on. Really, I appreciate all the great work you're doing. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. God bless. Have a good night.
God bless you too. And that is Natalie Jackson, the attorney for the Ben Crump Law Firm. And thank you guys for participating in that. I really appreciate it. Coy, coming in on your day off.
Hey.
But I think it's necessary and to really get, and I was just like, I was being a real pest with Ben Crump saying, please, somebody just,
right.
I know you're a busy man. And he put me in touch with his top people. Natalie Jackson is his senior attorney, and then the investigator. Also, we're going to get him on next week, hopefully, to talk about this, Coy, when you're back on. So thank you, Coy, for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, keep up the great work, and Aprylete and I will sally forth.
There we go. See you, Coy.
And Yolanda, you can come back in the room if you like. Let's move to.
Come on, Yolanda. It's the girls.
Let's move to.
Thank you, Sybil. She was good. Thank you for that, Sybil.
Wasn't she? Yeah.
And I could understand her too.
Mm-hmm.
Right. She dumbed it down for us.
Well, she made it so I can understand it.
Well, I'm going to tell you, for me.
I'm not claiming to dumb down. She just explained so I can.
Well, she made us feel as smart as we possibly could in explaining this to us, and we can go on and have the conversations, and not only have the conversations, but be about the action.
That's the part.
Be about the action of doing something in our communities. Like she said, we're coming up on election year, and yes, we do work from the top down. But this is really important not only as you are voting for the president, but you're voting for members of the United States Senate. You're voting for members of everyone's congressperson is up for election or re-election on down to, and I'm not sure about a lot of states, but some states will be having statewide elections too, or local elections, and that affects you even more so. And those people are the ones that are going to be doing like what Aprylete was talking about, the CIT training, what Attorney Jackson was talking about in the policy making. This is really important. It's really, really important.
Sybil, I think you have to give Ben Crump and his co-workers props for coming and having these dialogue and explaining it to us, because for those of us, a lot more of us are more and more paying attention to the news. And when we pay attention to the news, we also put a lot of inference in. But it's great that we could have somebody, because there was a number of things that people were saying in the comments that Ms. Jackson was able to give us facts, not what we heard or not what we think happened or what could have happened. So you just got to give props to, because we know they're busy and they're trying to litigate, but good for them.
Yeah. I am so grateful to Ben and all the good work that he's done, but he has put together an incredible staff. And so much so they have a law school named after him now. So congratulations on that.
Where?
Yeah. It's not Edward. It's in Miami. What's the
Goody gumdrops.
Yeah. But he really is a man of great passion and action. And you can tell that, and he hires people like that too. So thank you again. And like I said, hoping to get the investigator on next week. A lot of stuff happened today. I was working on what seems kind of trivial now. I was working on the Donald Trump at the NABJ story when the story came down about the people who have been held in the prisons in Russia being released today. Like they're on their way home now.
Yeah.
Their families will meet them. Large prisoner swap took place among a number of countries, including Russia. American journalist Evan Gershkovich of the Wall Street Journal and former U.S. Marine and businessman Paul Whelan were among the 24 detainees released as part of a complex swap between Russia and other countries. A host of Russian dissidents were also freed, while in return, Moscow got a former FSB colonel, that is their secret police bureau, convicted of murder, as well as several individuals accused of spying or cybercrime. As I said, the Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and the former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan, convicted of espionage charges that the U.S. government considered baseless, are now free men. They were released in a swap that involved the release of 16 people previously detained in Russia in exchange for 8 held in the U.S., Germany, Norway, Slovenia, and Poland. And so it was like, it wasn't a domino effect. It was, we have to have your permission to let these people go, and you let these people go, and then these people will go over here, and then you will get somebody from here. It was that kind of politics, and not only politics. Now, I shouldn't even say politics. It was that kind of diplomacy that took place amongst the higher ups and in the Biden administration, because a lot of people thought it was going to be one of those situations that on inauguration day, if Donald Trump wins, that's when the Russians would release these detainees. And so it shows the really great work and the president's diplomatic staff that works without ceasing to make these things happen. It did not stop with Brittany Griner. And people were saying, well, why weren't these other guys who've been there longer able to get out? And it's just a matter of working the right and plugging the right people in.
So I think I know that that's nice of you to give his staff credit, but I'm giving it all to Biden.
Good for you.
Okay. All to him, because it is him and his relationship and his diplomacy. And Russia was smart to go ahead and release those people, because if, heaven forbid, Trump got into office, it wasn't going to happen. So there was politics on their part, but because it wasn't just the U.S., it is Biden had to talk with other countries to participate. And Putin know that other countries not going to talk to Trump.
No, because he's a NATO hater, and so these people
so
who are involved.
That's why it is the bigger picture. We're crying about stuff over here, but we don't look at the big picture. That's why I was like, "What are you talking about, Biden? He's incompetent. What are you talking about?"
Right.
I'm sorry.
You're right. No, it was really quite complex. As a matter of fact, one of the men, there's a name you'll hear. He's a diplomat working with the Secretary of State, and his name is Jay Sullivan. And he was so emotional tonight in one of the news reports. And he was saying, he was trying to say, it's a great, and his voice caught with emotion and said, it's a great day.
Yeah, and this is great for Biden's legacy. They were talking about what's your legacy. This is his legacy. How long have they been trying to make this happen?
Right.
Good for him.
President Biden held an address today at the White House and said their brutal ordeal is over and they're free. Meanwhile, WNBA player and former detainee herself, Brittany Griner, said she's head over heels happy for the detainees coming home and their families. She returned to this country in December of 2022, so that's been about a year and a half ago. Today, 19 months later, she is playing for the national team in Paris, which won its 57th straight game at the Olympics, and she scored today while helping Americans pursue the gold medal for the women's basketball team. But she said the greater victory is what happened amongst the diplomatic corps and under the Biden administration. Yeah. Also, great news for the Golden Girls. Simone Biles, the now 9-time Olympic medalist, kept her 11-year all-around winning streak alive, winning another gold in today's all-around competition, the women's gymnastics at the Paris Olympics. She is now the first woman since 1968 to win 2 Olympic all-around titles. Although you remember back in Tokyo during the pandemic, she had to withdraw. She had the twisties, and it was like a mental thing that was happening. She won gold in dominant fashion at the 2016 Rio Olympics. So that really is the 2 Olympics, the 2016 and now the 2024. And getting close to 30 years old. So she really is the older member of the gymnastic team, but she still got it. Oh my God.
She's on fire. Jesus.
Yolanda, that's why I didn't make it to yoga today. I just had to watch this girl. It was poetry. It was
you do know that you could have caught it on
any other time. I could have recorded
the rest of young people.
You wanted to laugh.
Yeah.
Well, she finished over 1 point ahead of Brazil's Rebecca Andrade, who is incredible. This was so beautiful. These young women of color, Simone Biles and this young woman, Rebecca of Brazil, Golden Girl, she came in second, and Suni Lee, who has overcome just incredible odds with kidney disease and all of this. She came in third for the United States. It was just so great to see the woman power, the young females, and the things they can do with their bodies. Just unbelievable.
It's beautiful.
I have a hard time doing this. If they were doing this.
Well, if you came to yoga, you might be able to do a little more. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm able to do this a lot because of yoga, but sometimes it's a struggle. But they were doing things and flipping and going from one bar to the other, and going, doing consecutive flips across the mat and staying within the boundaries. Oh my God! Oh my God! Aprylete, have you ever been a gymnast?
I have never been a gymnast. I envy those who can move as limber as that.
Right. There was one girl, she's had 3 ACL tears.
And that's no joke. I just tore a little hair in mine from cycling, and it took me out. So just imagine the full tear. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. She's had 3, and she was there participating today.
Wow.
Just unbelievable. Unbelievable. The things that people are able to do with their bodies and giving all of this for the country for a medal.
Do they get paid well? Will you win a medal?
No.
Oh, wow.
No. Well, you get, if you're able to get sponsors.
Got you. But that medal itself, like, it's not lucrative. Like, it's not.
No. You get the medal. And some people, are in such financial straits, they have to sell it.
Sell the medal?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Eventually it comes to that for a lot of people. And not so much for Carl Lewis, the basketball player, the Jazz, used to play for the Jazz. He was on, thank you. He was on the Olympic team that I believe.
Hold on for a second. You're not impressed enough that I was able to pull that out.
I am impressed.
Okay. Don't you love us, Aprylete?
Okay, I love it.
Yay, Yolanda! Yay!
Shut up.
Yogi, she's our girl.
Yogi, she's our girl.
He's selling off a lot of his stuff, and one of them is his gold medal from the Dream Team.
Wow, really?
Men's basketball. Yep. And we don't have time for this. I'll save this for next week. Let's move to entertainment. And if this is from that must have been one heck of a makeup session file. Cardi B announced that she's pregnant with baby number 3, as she also announced filing for divorce from Offset of Migos. She wrote, she shared with her fans on her Instagram page, and to her soon-to-be ex-husband, with every ending comes a new beginning. I'm so grateful to have shared this season with you. You have brought me more love, more life, and most of all, renewed my power. Reminded me that I can have it all. You've reminded me that I never have to choose between life, love, and my passion. Cardi B and Offset have had an on-again, off-again relationship since before they were married, but they were married in 2017. This is not their first foray with filing for divorce, I understand, but maybe, you know, whatever makes them happy. And they're bringing a new life into the world.
Yeah, little baby.
Yeah, a third child between them. Okay. Yolanda?
Yes.
It's Jewel time.
It is Jewel time.
Jewel
And
time.
this week was really good, Aprylete, because it's about self-belief, right? And what you tell yourself. So you would like this is be kind to yourself, especially during tough times, to nurture and reinforce your self-belief. So just be gentle, be kind to yourself, especially when you're having a hard time.
I love that.
Yolanda, you spoke that as if you wrote that.
I did.
I did.
That's a jewel.
That's a jewel. Yeah.
I love that.
I needed that, by the way. That was for me to keep my confidence up and what have you. You just got to be gentle with yourself when so much other stuff is happening.
And you do have a lot of stuff going on around you. So be kind to yourself. And Aprylete, you too be kind to yourself. And you all out there, be kind to yourself, be good to yourself and to each other if you can. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you again soon. Aloha.
Good.